WNBA media absolutely has a problem. Absolutely has a problem. And Rachel DeMita calling it out is the right thing. Obviously, look, Rachel DeMita, I mean this. Rachel DeMita could say the sky is blue and they would call her out for sometimes in the morning, the sky is red. She could say the grass.
Pay close attention to that reaction because it tells you everything you need to know. Rachel DeMita didn't just make a comment. She poked the most sensitive nerve in WNBA media, and the response was instant, aggressive, and entirely predictable. Within hours, she was labeled a clout chaser, accused of riding Caitlin Clark's popularity, framed as someone betraying the league she supposedly claims to support. None of that happened by accident. That backlash wasn't about disagreement. It was about control. What Rachel did was violate an unspoken rule. Don't challenge the narrative from inside the house. And when someone does, the establishment responds the same way it always does. Not with counterarguments, not with facts, but with character attacks. That's how you know the criticism landed. Because if she were wrong, they wouldn't need to smear her. They'd just prove her wrong. Instead, they went straight for her credibility, her motives, her intentions, anything except the substance of what she actually said. And that reaction alone validates her entire point. The WNBA media ecosystem does not tolerate internal criticism. It treats disagreement as betrayal and analysis as hostility. The goal isn't to improve the product, it's to protect the image. What makes this moment so revealing is how coordinated the response felt. The same talking points, the same accusations, the same dismissal tactics. That doesn't happen organically. That's institutional reflex. Rachel didn't expose anything new. She exposed how fragile the system really is. Because a healthy media environment doesn't panic when someone offers critique. It engages, it debates, it evolves. Instead, what we saw was defensiveness masquerading as moral superiority. Anyone who questions coverage priorities or basketball quality is framed as anti-WNBA, and that framing is intentional. It shuts down conversation by turning basketball analysis into a loyalty test. Either you praise everything or you're labeled an enemy. Rachel didn't attack women's basketball. She challenged how it's being covered, and the ferocity of the response proves that the media establishment isn't confident in its product. It's terrified of scrutiny. When image matters more than honesty, criticism becomes dangerous. That's the environment Rachel stepped into. And the fact that she's still standing by her points tells you she knows exactly what she's dealing with.
She has a podcast the same initials as CC as starts in the league. She made the podcast same time Caitlin Clark got in the league. If you think Rachel DeMita started the Courtside Club because of Caitlin Clark, you don't know who Rachel DeMita is. I'm not joking when I say this. There was a time where outside of Caitlin Clark, Sabrina Ionescu, outside, let's just say the top 10 players that have kind of transcended the WNBA. We all know who they are.
Let's get one thing straight, because this matters more than anything else in this discussion. Rachel DeMita did not build her platform on Caitlin Clark. Long before Clark ever played a WNBA game, Rachel was already one of the most visible and competitive figures in basketball media. She wasn't a side character. She wasn't a reaction channel. She was actively competing for attention in the same space as Duke Dennis, Agent 00, and the entire AMP ecosystem, an environment where relevance is earned, not gifted. So when critics claim Rachel launched her podcast to capitalize on Caitlin Clark simply because they share the initial CC, that's not a misunderstanding. That's either willful ignorance or intentional dishonesty. Anyone familiar with basketball social media knows Rachel didn't need Clark to build an audience. She already had one. And that line matters because it exposes exactly what Rachel is criticizing. Instead of engaging with basketball analysis, WNBA media defaults to narrative policing. They don't argue the substance, they question the messenger. It's easier to accuse someone of opportunism than to respond to uncomfortable truths. Rachel's point isn't about personalities. It's about coverage quality. The WNBA media often avoids hard basketball conversations. Strategy, matchups, weaknesses, incentive structures. Instead, it leans on storylines, protectionism, and surface-level praise. That approach may feel supportive, but it ultimately insults the sport by treating it as too fragile for honest critique. By dismissing Rachel as a clout chaser, the media proved her right. They demonstrated that legitimacy in this space isn't determined by knowledge or insight. It's determined by obedience. If you stay on script, you're welcome. If you deviate, you're attacked. That's not a media ecosystem built for growth. That's a gatekeeping operation. And Rachel's background makes her uniquely threatening to it. She can't be dismissed as uninformed. She can't be dismissed as irrelevant. So the only option left is to question her intentions, which is exactly what they did.
glazing Caitlin Clark on the same podcast and saying Unrivaled isn't watched because fans don't care about Caitlin Clark as well. No, Unrivaled is not. People aren't watching Unrivaled. Nothing to do with fans not caring about Caitlin Clark. People aren't watching Unrivaled. And Rachel and me said as much. Like, it's just not good to watch. The only reason you watch this gimmick ball 3-on-3 is if there's players you want to watch. And
this is where Rachel's criticism becomes impossible to ignore, because it hits the one area the media absolutely refuses to examine honestly: Unrivaled. When the 3-on-3 league launched in January 2025, it came wrapped in hype. TNT, broadcast rights, big names, big promises, a supposedly revolutionary product. The messaging was clear. This was elite women's basketball reimagined. And yet, the ratings told a different story. Instead of interrogating why viewership lagged, the media defaulted to a familiar excuse: fans don't support women's basketball unless Caitlin Clark is involved. That argument is lazy, defensive, and fundamentally unserious. Rachel's response cuts through that nonsense cleanly. It's not about who's playing. It's about what they're playing. Basketball isn't entertainment just because professionals are on the floor. It needs stakes. It needs tension. It needs rivalries. Gimmick formats don't carry themselves. 3-on-3 only works when competition is real and personal. Right now, Unrivaled feels like a high-budget open run. Everyone's friendly. Everyone's comfortable. Everyone's branding. That's not compelling television. Fans don't tune out because Caitlin Clark isn't there. They tune out because nothing feels urgent. There's no animosity, no edge, no sense that winning actually matters. When every game looks like a sponsored scrimmage, audiences respond accordingly. Rachel didn't say Unrivaled couldn't work. She said it isn't working, and that distinction matters. Instead of addressing that reality, the media deflected blame onto fans. That's easier than admitting the product itself might be flawed. Unrivaled isn't failing because women's basketball lacks an audience. It's struggling because competition has been replaced by comfort. And until that changes, no amount of marketing or moral scolding will fix it.
Relevant last year was Angel Reese. Why? Because Angel Reese was literally every game they won, she was going out taunting people. Angel Reese got Nafisa Collier to clap back and like start shouting at her after they won. Like, when you get Fee to be like that, you've gotten under people's skins. Angel, like, everyone in Unrivaled now, you look at Unrivaled and it's all about, oh, this buddy. Look at all these players on 4 different teams that aren't playing. One player from each team is there watching the games. But Angel Reese wanted all the other teams to hate her. Like, that's the only way this type of gimmick ball can be interesting is if there's storylines, is if players fucking...
Angel Reese understood this immediately. From the moment she stepped into Unrivaled, she treated it like competition, not networking. She wasn't there to smile for cameras or build friendships. She played with edge. She talked trash. She celebrated aggressively. She made opponents uncomfortable. And that discomfort is exactly what made those games watchable. Angel didn't just play basketball, she created stakes. She got under Alyssa Thomas's skin, one of the most competitive players in the sport. She forced reactions. She generated moments. That tension is what fans respond to. Not formats, not rule tweaks, not branding. But this season, that energy is gone. Instead, we're watching players from opposing teams sit courtside together, cheering each other on, laughing, treating games like summer camp with broadcast crews. The intensity has been replaced by familiarity. The competition has been replaced by vibes. And when Rachel points this out, she's accused of manufacturing drama. That accusation is revealing, because drama isn't the problem, apathy is. Sports are built on conflict. Without it, games become background noise. Rachel isn't asking for fake beef. She's asking for authenticity. If you want fans to care, players have to care visibly. Calling that critique toxic is just another way of avoiding the truth. Angel Reese proved that edge matters. And instead of learning from that, the league sanitized it. The result is a product that feels safe, polished, and forgettable.
I'm not talking about the bullshit Angel Reese versus Caitlin Clark rivalry. I'm talking about the Caitlin Clark versus JC Sheldon rivalry. Those two fucking hate each other. They hate each other. And I can guarantee you it's one of those situations that if JC Sheldon ever ends up on a team with Caitlin Clark, JC Sheldon is going to be the Sophie Cunningham type, the Lexi Hull type, who does all the dirty work for Caitlin Clark and will become such a vital, important part. Anyone who knows basketball knows that's what type of player JC Sheldon is. But Caitlin Clark's played against JC Sheldon. JC Sheldon's job has been to get in Caitlin Clark's head for her whole fucking career in college.
The media bias becomes undeniable once you actually listen to Unrivaled broadcasts. Take a Breeze game. Paige Buchers could be sitting on the bench, and the commentary still revolves around her. Other players go on scoring runs. Kam grink dominates stretkes. Defensive anchors control the paint. And yet everything is framed in relation to Paige. She's not just playing, she's the lens through which the entire game is discussed. When Paige checks in, the commentary escalates to absurdity. Her defense gets compared to Kawhi Leonard. Two-way dominance is implied with no evidence. Candace Parker herself had to interrupt a broadcast to ask if they were seriously making that comparison. The response? Isn't she a two-way player? That moment says everything. Competent defense is not elite two-way impact. Saying it doesn't make it true. And when even legends like Candace Parker are forced to step in, the problem is obvious. This is an analysis. It's narrative protection. Other players don't get evaluated on their own terms. They exist to elevate the chosen star's storyline. And when Rachel Dida calls that out, she's accused of stirring controversy. She's not. She's describing reality. The WNBA doesn't need less criticism. It needs better honesty. And the reaction to Rachel proves just how far the media still has to go.